In the last few years, one manufacturer has dominated the North American locomotive and railcar market, and that company is Siemens Mobility. Specializing in adapting German locomotive and railcar technologies to the North American market, Siemens has built passenger rolling stock for countless railroads across the continent, and today we'll be going on an exclusive tour of their factory in Sacramento, California. Siemens is a German company with more than 140 years of experience building railcars, and they've been manufacturing trains here in North America since the 1980s, when they established their factory in Sacramento, California, to assemble light rail vehicles for San Diego and Calgary. Since then, they've built hundreds of light rail vehicles for the North American market, and even broken into the inner city train set market with diesel and electric locomotive offerings and now passenger rail cars. Nowadays, 1 in 3 light rail vehicles in North America is built by Siemens, and they're building inner city trains for more than a dozen customers. Today we'll be touring their massive factory in Sacramento, California, and seeing how these trains are built from the ground up at Siemens. Let's begin where the trains are completed, in the final assembly building. From this balcony you can see the various different cities that Siemens is building light rail vehicles for, and way in the back is where locomotives are completed. Let's go back there now.
Here are 2 charger locomotives, one built for Amtrak and one built for VIA Rail. These 2 are in the final stages of assembly and will soon go into testing.
Siemens' charger locomotive platform is just that, a platform. One of the many things that makes it so cool is its adaptability to different railroads' needs. So far, in addition to its original variant, Siemens has designed streamlined chargers for VIA Rail and Brightline, chargers with easily replaceable nose cones for long-distance Amtrak trains, and is currently beginning to build dual-mode chargers capable of switching between diesel and electric for Metro North.
As we walk back through final assembly, we can get a closer look at the light rail vehicles. Here are some S200 light rail vehicles for San Francisco's Muni and Calgary's C-Train, an S700 for Seattle's Sound Transit, some unpainted venture cars going to possibly Amtrak, VIA, or Brightline, a charger locomotive for VIA, an S700 for San Diego's MTS, and more light rail vehicles for Seattle, Sacramento, Calgary, and San Francisco. Finally, back where we originally took a look over the final assembly floor are the testing bays for completed light rail vehicles. These 2 cars are bound for San Francisco and San Diego respectively, and are undergoing final testing before being shipped to their buyers. One building over from final assembly is Subassembly, which is not only where locomotives, railcars, and light rail vehicles are prepared for final assembly, but also where all the electronics for these trains are built. Here on these long tables, electricians are assembling the wiring that'll eventually end up in the floors and roofs of trains. And over here, the wiring is being done for electrical cabinets and control panels. This shell right here will eventually end up in the cab of a locomotive, and these cabinets will too. Each locomotive contains about 28 miles of wiring, and these electricians are responsible for making sure it's all done right. In the next room, more people are working to assemble the electronics for trains, again including electrical cabinets, control panels, engine computers, and even things as simple as interior lighting. On the other side of the subassembly building, wiring is installed in the floors, roofs, and sidewalls of rail equipment. Here are 2 skeletons that will eventually be turned into light rail vehicles further down the line. This space is currently being used to house both rail cars and light rail cars, but thanks to the use of SnapTrack, it can be reconfigured to house whatever equipment needs work. Next door to subassembly are the sanding and coating booths, and then the paint booth. Here in the sanding and coating booth, this charger locomotive is about to be sandblasted, and eventually it'll get a coat of primer. After that, it'll be moved to the paint booth to get its distinctive coat of paint. You may be wondering, how are trains moved between buildings? Well, that's where the transporter comes in. This machine is able to pick up rail cars and locomotives and move them between buildings. Here's one now, moving the shell of a venture car into the sandblasting booth. After checking out the 2 assembly buildings and the sanding and painting buildings, I walked along the test track and checked out one of the many backlots used to store equipment. Since Siemens has received so many orders in the last few years, their factory here in Sacramento has been running at full capacity for quite some time, so countless train cars end up here when they're not being worked on. A wide array of mainline and light rail equipment can be seen stored here, all on temporary SnapTrack. As of 2024, Siemens Mobility is by far the largest North American passenger train manufacturer, and due to this massive influx of equipment orders, in 2023, Siemens announced that it would be opening a second factory on the East Coast to help fulfill orders on time. This new factory in Lexington, North Carolina is set to open in 2025 and will be focusing on passenger coach manufacturing, as well as first-of-its-kind locomotive and passenger coach overhauls. Back on the test track, we see a bunch of trains that just completed final assembly, and now are in the process of testing. Here's a long-distance charger locomotive for Amtrak in the test shed. Further down, there's another Amtrak charger and some light rail equipment for various cities.
It's really interesting to see light rail and intercity equipment on the same tracks here at Siemens, and it's crazy to see the size differences between them, such as right here. This is an S200 light rail vehicle bound for San Francisco, and behind it is an SC44 diesel for the Altamont Corridor Express. Though they both run on standard gauge track, this is the only time you'll see these two trains together in the same place. Further down, as we get closer to the railcar assembly buildings, you can really see how business is booming at the Sacramento factory, with multiple railcar and even locomotive shells sitting out in the open, waiting in line to be completed. Later this year, much of this congestion will be relieved by the North Carolina factory, but until then, it's not uncommon to see equipment being stored not only around the factory, but off-site in other backlots. Here's an unpainted cab that'll eventually end up on a charger locomotive or venture cab car. Let's go inside and see how it's made. This is the welding building, where much of the fabrication process is done. Unlike other manufacturers here in North America, Siemens rolling stock is built from scratch here in California, and even a good amount of the engineering is done on-site in Sacramento. This right here is a light rail vehicle shell in the very beginning stages of being built. Right now it's just a few pieces of metal welded together, but in a few months it'll be nearing completion out on the test track. Further down, we can see the early stages of what will become train cars, with smaller sections of floor, roof, sidewall, and more being put together. These yellow curtains are all around this building to protect people from the sparks, noise, and blinding light created by welding. In the next room over, we can see another locomotive cab coming together, in addition to larger sections of roofs and floors. Behind all that is a charger locomotive shell coming together. In the next building, the more mechanical parts of a train are being built, such as trucks. On the left there is a truck that'll eventually end up on a locomotive, and on the right is one that'll end up on a light rail vehicle. Once again, this really illustrates the size difference between the two. Further back, more trucks are being built, in addition to other less recognizable parts of the locomotive. In the next building over, the railcar shells begin to take shape, with sidewalls, floors, roofs, and even car ends being welded together. This shell right here will eventually end up as a Via Rail cab car, and this car right next to it will most likely end up in the same train set. Further down, we can see the floor of a venture car, and then the ends of the car, and then of course the sidewalls. All these individual parts are pressure tested before eventually being welded together to form the shell of a car. Back here is another venture cab car being put together, this time for Amtrak. This car doesn't have its roof installed yet, but its floor, sidewalls, and cab are all put together. Speaking of the roof, here it is now, or at least the skeleton of it. These long pieces will eventually become the roof after being completed by the spot welding robot. The factory here in Sacramento has two of these massive CNC machines, and they're used for larger welding jobs, such as connecting long sections of railcars. Finally, after the car body shells are put together, they end up in the coach building, where they're finished with doors, windows, electronics, and even interiors. As we walk further along, you can see how this building is just one big assembly line, and the further along we go, the more complete these railcars become. By the end, this Via car is nearly fully furnished and ready to be placed onto its trucks. The coach building is where all the parts fabricated in the last few buildings will come together to form fully fledged passenger cars and eventually get prepared to be delivered to their customers.
On the far side of the coach building, we see a couple of painted Amtrak Midwest cars, funded by the states of Illinois, Michigan, Missouri, and Wisconsin, receiving interior furnishings, and further down, one for Via Rail is getting the same treatment.
Back outside, once again you can see the vast amount of venture cars being built here. Shells are stored all around the factory, and Siemens has recently even started to furnish cars in this other warehouse next to the coach building. All these cars everywhere begs the question, who's buying all these? Well, since their introduction in 2018, the Siemens Venture Car has been ordered by 7 different operators all across North America. Its launch customer, Brightline, currently is receiving 20 additional cars to expand all their trains from 4 cars to 6 cars each by 2026. Via Rail is in the process of receiving 32 5-car train sets for its corridor routes. Ontario Northland has 3 shortened 3-car Via trains on order for its Northlander passenger service. 3 state-funded Amtrak routes are receiving venture cars, for a total of 194 going to Amtrak Midwest, Cascades, and Northern California routes. And of course, Amtrak proper has a massive 514-car order for its routes in the Northeast. In total, Siemens has or will build more than 900 venture cars over the next decade, so it's no wonder that they're all over the property. Finally, to end the tour, I checked out the test track, where multiple fully assembled trains are being prepared to leave the factory. This was probably my favorite shot of the whole tour, with 2 venture train sets sitting right next to each other, one for Canada's Via Rail and one for Amtrak's San Joaquin's here in California. Despite their vastly different customers, these 2 trains were built right here in sunny Sacramento, where they'll eventually head their own separate ways. The Siemens Factory is located right along a busy Union Pacific main line, so trains can be shipped right off the test tracks to their customers. The same can't be said for the more fragile light rail vehicles, which are shipped by truck to their final destination. Over the last decade, Siemens Mobility has become North America's largest passenger rolling stock manufacturer, and if today's tour showed me anything, it was that they don't plan to slow down anytime soon. With current orders calling for hundreds of locomotives and railcars and a second factory opening in 2025, it's clear that the future is bright for Siemens, and that's all without me even mentioning high-speed rail. Just a few weeks ago, after being named the preferred bidder to build high-speed trains for Brightline West, Siemens announced that they'll be opening a third American rolling stock factory in upstate New York, completely devoted to manufacturing high-speed trains. Located in the town of Horseheads, New York, this new high-speed facility will begin the production of American Pioneer 220 high-speed train sets in 2026. Like the factories in California and North Carolina, these trains will be built in the United States with American labor. Over the next few years, I predict that we'll continue to see Siemens dominate the passenger rolling stock market in North America, and this is in no small part due to their innovation, domestic production, and ability to suit the needs of their customers. As transit continues to receive unprecedented amounts of funding for recent times, and Siemens continues to produce such high-quality equipment, it's clear that it has a big part in the future of American rail. I want to give a huge thanks to the people over at Siemens Mobility for inviting me on a tour of their factory. This is easily the coolest video I've ever had the opportunity to make, and I'm so glad to be sharing it with everyone. If you're new and you like what you saw, please consider subscribing. I try to upload videos just like these a couple times a month, and every 3 months I do a recap of North American railroad news. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for your support, and I'll see you soon in another video. Thanks for watching.